Juice WRLD's Lucid Dreams ruined my life. I just heard this song for the first time a week ago. Who knew a song would start such a huge fad? Lucid dreaming is all everyone has been talking about at school lately. I'd never even heard the term before hearing the song, but I decided to research it tonight. I guess I always kind of thought of any type of dreaming being either a dream or a nightmare. I type lucid dreaming into the search bar, scroll down the page, and then begin to read. Have you ever started dreaming and suddenly realized you were in a dream? Did you manage to gain control over your dream? Lucid dreaming is a dream during which the dreamer is aware that they are dreaming. I swiftly close my laptop as my dad barges into my room complaining, "Carlos, it's after midnight. You should be in bed already." I spin around in my desk chair to face him and reply, "I thought you said you were going to start knocking. I'm 16 years old, Dad. I need my privacy." Without an answer, he turns off my stereo and flicks my light switch off, then gently closes the door. I didn't realize it was so late. I must have lost track of time. I open my computer screen, exit out of all of the pages I left open, and log off. Before going to bed, I check my cell for any messages. There's one text from my friend Zeke. "Did you ask him?" He was referring to me asking my dad if I could stay the night at his parents' lake house on Friday. Zeke was planning on having a couple of the guys over for a small get-together, but when word got around school, it ended up turning into a big party. But no way was I going to tell my dad that. I typed a quick reply, "No, not yet. He had to work late tonight. I'll ask him tomorrow." When I didn't receive a response back right away, I assumed he was in bed for the night. I figured I'd see him at school the next day. I sit on the edge of my bed, pull off my sweatpants and t-shirt, toss them onto the floor, and then slide under the covers in my boxers and tank top. I lay there in darkness, listening to the faint sound of the fan humming. After tossing and turning for nearly an hour, I finally grab my phone from my nightstand, plug in my earbuds, and press play. Zeke wants to try out the Juice WRLD challenge at his lake house this weekend. My friend Peter said he's already tried it. I remember him telling me one day at school, "It feels like you're a character inside of a video game. You can do whatever you want, go anywhere you desire. You have control over everything." I see light flood the hallway through the crack beneath my bedroom door. It must be Dad coming to check if I'm in bed yet. I pause the music and close my eyes just as he opens my door. A moment later, I hear it close again. I push play, but keep my eyes closed and try to go to sleep. I have a long day tomorrow. After school, I have baseball practice, and then later that night, my little sister has a dance recital that I'm being forced to attend. I reach over, blindly smacking at my alarm, trying to find the snooze button. I don't remember what time I got to sleep last night, but I'm exhausted. I probably shouldn't have listened to that song before going to bed. It played in my mind all night long, even after my phone died. I hear Dad walking around downstairs, probably making breakfast for me and my sister Katerina. Minutes later, he begins to call my name from the bottom of the stairs. I scream, "I'm up!" Then I roll over and place my head under a mound of pillows. The next thing I know, my sister is jumping on my bed, beating me over the head with one of them. "Pillow fight!" she yells excitedly as she pounds me over and over in the face. I grab her by the hand, pull her down onto the bed, and proceed to tickle her to the point that she can't even breathe. Dad calls from the doorway. "Cut it out, you two. Come on, we've got to get going. Carlos, get up and get dressed. Katerina, breakfast is on the table." Once he disappears down the hallway, Katerina sticks her tongue out at me as she heads downstairs. I stand up and stretch, then close my door and get dressed. After that, I collect all of my stuff for school and shove it into my backpack. The pleasant aroma of breakfast wafts upstairs and invades my nose as soon as I step into the hallway. Dad had made his homemade cinnamon rolls. I lick my lips in anticipation of their delicious taste. When I enter the kitchen, I grab 2 of them from the pan and watch the gooey icing drip everywhere. I place them on a plate, sit them down on the dining room table, and start to lick the residue from my fingers. My phone vibrates, and once my hands are no longer sticky, I retrieve it from the front pocket of my jeans. It's just Zeke again, reminding me to ask Dad about this weekend. I'm really hesitant to ask, because the last time he let me stay at Zeke's, his parents came home early and caught us drinking. But Dad wasn't even mad. He was more disappointed than anything. My mother was an alcoholic. That's the reason he left her. I'd have to wait until he was in a really good mood to ask. Maybe tonight. We are going out for dinner with my grandparents. That would probably be as good a time as any to ask him. Are you excited about tonight? I ask my sister as I take a seat across from her at the table. She nods her head. I have a solo, she tells me excitedly. Then she asks, are you coming? Of course I am, I promise. I wouldn't miss it. After breakfast, Dad and Katerina head to the garage and I begin walking to my bus stop. He drives her to school every day since it's on his way to work. Dad works 2 jobs. He's a mechanic at an automotive shop. That's his full-time job. But he also has a part-time job as a dishwasher and cook at a local diner a few nights a week. His full-time job pays the bills, and the part-time job is to pay for things like extracurricular activities for me and Katerina. I stop behind a crowd of kids at the corner who are waiting to cross the street. When the walk signal appears and the traffic slows to a stop, we proceed across. Some of them dance their way across when they hear music playing from a car waiting at the light. Of course, it's the most popular song that's out right now. I make it to the bus stop just as the bus is pulling up. As soon as the bus doors close behind me and Zeke sees me walking down the aisle, he stands up and waves at me from the back of the bus. What did he say? He asks impatiently as I'm trying to sit down. I didn't ask him yet, I admit. I'm going to ask tonight when we go out for dinner after Katerina's recital. He whines, what are you waiting for? Why don't you just ask him already? I reply, because I already know what the answer is going to be. Zeke asks me, he's still mad about that? Kids get caught drinking underage all of the time. I'm sure he did it too when he was younger. Then he recommends, you could always sneak out. No way was that going to happen. My dad is like a hawk when I'm up to something. He always knows. And he checks on me every night, sometimes several times a night. I know I'd end up getting caught. Nope, no way, I tell Zeke. If you don't come, then you'll be the only one who hasn't tried it, he tells me. He's talking about all of our friends. Like I said before, Peter has already tried lucid dreaming, and the rest of us that haven't are all going to be at the lake house on Friday. Later that day in language arts, I noticed that a girl in my class who is usually chipper and always participating is being unusually quiet. She's just sitting at her desk, staring out the window in a daze. I don't know her very well, but I know that her and my boy Devin are good friends, so I tap him on the shoulder and whisper, "What's wrong with Shannon?" He jots something down on a piece of paper, then tears it out of his notebook and passes it back to me. It says, I heard that she hasn't been right since she tried the lucid dreaming challenge. I tap him on the shoulder again and ask, what happened? He shrugs his shoulders, then holds his hand out. I pass the note back to him and he writes something else before handing it back to me. I don't know. I asked her, but she refuses to talk about it. After class, everyone heads to the cafeteria for lunch. Well, everyone but Shannon. I see her rush into the bathroom, and she never shows up to lunch. That night after Katerina's dance recital, we all head to her favorite restaurant for dinner. Katerina and I decide to ride with our grandparents. Grandma is beaming from ear to ear, bragging about how wonderful her grandbaby did on her solo. I assume Grandpa gets tired of listening to her talk when he turns on the radio. Katerina squeals, "Ooh, turn this up, please. I love this song." Then she starts jamming in the back seat, humming along to the beat because she doesn't know all of the words. I cover my ears and lean my head back onto the seat. I like the song, but I can't bear to hear my sister trying to sing it in her tone-deaf voice. Finally, we get to the restaurant and are seated, then the waitress comes over and takes our orders. While we're waiting for our food to arrive, I decide this is probably the best time to ask. Dad, Zeke is having a few of the guys over this weekend, and he invited me. Can I go? He replies in a firm voice, letting me know that this will be his final answer. Absolutely not. I told you after what happened last time, you weren't allowed to hang out at his house anymore. You're lucky I let you hang out with him at all. I take a sip of my drink, then turn to Katerina and praise her on her amazing dance skills. She just sits there smiling and listening quietly, soaking up all of the compliments that I'm giving her. Then I see Grandpa out of the corner of my eye, whispering something into Dad's ear. He listens intently, occasionally nodding his head until the waitress returns with our food. Later that night, while I'm finishing up my homework, Dad comes in to say goodnight. He turns off my radio, then tells me not to stay up too late. When he gets to the door, he pauses in the doorway and turns around. Carlos, I'm going to give you another chance. You can go to Zeke's this weekend, but don't make me regret it, he warns. I thank him, hugging him tightly. Then once he leaves, I text Zeke to tell him the good news. Then I turn off the light and get ready for bed. He texts right back, I can't believe he said yes. This weekend is going to be lit, followed by a bunch of emojis. That Friday, I head straight to Zeke's after school. Zeke's dad is going to drive us up to the lake house after he gets off of work and drop us off for the weekend. We hang out and play video games while we wait for his dad to come home. At 6 p.m., he pulls into the driveway and beeps the horn. We grab our bags, head outside, and toss them into the trunk. We stop at Peter's house first to pick him up, then Devin's next. The lake house is a 25-minute drive, and once we get there, Zeke's dad hands him the keys and some money to order pizza. We already stopped at the supermarket on the way up to buy some food, snacks, and drinks. Zeke's dad stays for a little while, and once he leaves, we order pizza and play video games until everyone else starts to arrive around 9. The party is kind of boring in my opinion. I'm not really the partying type of person, so I hang out on the couch continuing to play video games most of the time, until my crush Selena approaches me and asks me to dance with her. I decline, but she persists, practically dragging me to the dining room, which had turned into a dance floor. When I hear Lucid Dreams come on, how can I resist? So I gently place my left hand on her lower back and hold out my right hand. She places her silky smooth palm in mine, and then she lays her head on my shoulder and we sway back and forth to the beat. I breathe in her sweet scent. I can't tell if it's coming from her hair or if it's her perfume, but it smells nice. Once the song ends, she thanks me and kisses me softly on the cheek. Lucid Dreams plays numerous times throughout the night, each time reminding me of my dance with Selena. At first I thought it was kind of weird that the same songs kept playing, but then I found out that the kid who was in charge of the music had their playlist on repeat, which I absolutely can't stand. Around 2 a.m., the crowd starts to dwindle. By 2:30, everyone is gone, so we settle down and put on a movie, but mute it so that the environment is calm and quiet. Peter dozes off first. I can't tell if he's lucid dreaming or not. I don't think there is a way for someone else to tell. I guess the dreamer is really the only one who knows. I lay awake for a while. It's not working, Zeke says, startling me. I suggest maybe we should put on some music. He agrees, so he gets up and walks over to the stereo system, and then a moment later the music begins to play. I tell him to turn it down real low, so he does, and then I lay back down on the couch. I don't even know what I want to dream about. Then suddenly, I start to think about Selena. She's sitting across the room all alone with a frown on her face. When she sees me, she begins to smile. Then she stands up and motions for me to come to her, so I do as she commands. Once I reach her, she caresses my neck and gazes into my eyes. Those hazel eyes she possesses are enough to make my heart melt. "You're so beautiful," I whisper into her ear as her lips graze the side of my neck. I can't believe this is happening. I turn and glance behind me to make sure the guys are seeing this too, but they're all asleep. Then I notice the body sleeping on the couch. My body. It must have worked. I'm lucid dreaming. Peter was right when he said everything seems so real. Selena places her hand on my cheek and then she guides my face back to hers. "You seem distracted," she says in her soft, sweet voice. "Nope, I'm not. You have my full attention," I promise, grinning at her. "Good, follow me," she instructs me as she takes my hand and leads me away. I follow her down the hallway. We're walking rather slowly, although it feels more like I'm floating. We go outside and sit down on the dock by the lake. I think to myself, this is a very romantic setting. So I lean forward and kiss her tenderly on the lips. When I pull away, her eyes are still closed, and it seems as though she's savoring the moment. I lick my lips, and I can taste a hint of her lip gloss on them. It tastes fruity, maybe strawberry? When she finally opens her eyes, the look in them changes from excitement to fear. She tells me nervously, pointing at the water, "I think I saw something." It's pretty dark besides the few lights surrounding the dock, but I try my best to ease her fears by telling her it was probably just a fish. She continues to stare out into the distance, so I kiss her again, hoping to regain her attention. It does, but only for a moment until we hear splashing in the water behind us. I stand up and peer out into the open water, but I can't see anything. When I turn back around, I see that Selena is gone, and I'm out here all alone now. I begin to head back up to the lake house when I hear the splashing again. I walk to the edge of the dock and kneel down, waiting for the splashing sound again. But instead I start to see a shadow swimming to the surface of the water. It reaches out to me, so I curiously stick my hand out. Then suddenly, I see a set of red eyes appear in the water and the shadow grasps my arm tightly. I try to get away, but whatever has a hold of me is strong as hell. I scream for help, hoping Selena or maybe the guys will hear me and come to my rescue. But no one comes, and then I feel the cold water surround me, and I'm suddenly sinking. I wake up coughing and choking with the guys all around me. "Are you all right?" Devin asks me with a concerned look on his face. I sit up and realize that I'm soaked. Water is dripping off of me. Zeke exclaims, "Ew, is that sweat? Come on, man, you're getting it all over the couch." I answer, "No, I think it's water." Zeke and Devin look at me confused. I clarify, "It worked. I had a lucid dream." "Why the hell are you all wet?" Devin asks. I think about it for a minute and debate whether or not to tell them what really happened. In my dream, I fell in the lake. Then I woke up like this. Zeke tells us that he had a lucid dream too, but his was pretty non-eventful. Devin's pissed because he's the only one of us who couldn't do it. I reveal the rest of my dream to them, telling them all about Selena, but leaving out the part about being pulled into the lake. Peter just sits quietly in the background, listening to the details of all of our dreams. When we ask him if he had a lucid dream, he nods. Wanting to know more, I ask him, "Well, what happened?" He shakes his head and responds, "I don't remember." That Sunday, when Zeke's dad drops me back off at home, my dad asks me how the weekend went. "We ate loads of pizza and sweets and played video games day and night," I tell him with a laugh. "I better not find out anything else was going on that shouldn't have been," he says to me with a stern look on his face. That night, I have another dream. I'm back at the lake house, and the dark entity that dragged me into the lake wants me to follow it. I have no control over my body as I glide through the starlit night sky trailing behind it. Where is it taking me? I don't see a door anywhere, but I hear knocking coming from somewhere, and then someone calling my name. I jolt awake and see my dad standing in my doorway. He says, sounding annoyed, "Your alarm has been going off for the last 15 minutes. That morning at school, there are a bunch of police cars in the parking lot when the bus pulls up. I ask a few students what's going on, but no one knows anything. When I get to my first period class, my teacher announces that a student has gone missing. It's Shannon Devereaux, the girl from my language arts class that was acting strange last week. She disappeared over the weekend, and nobody knows what happened to her. I don't recall her being at the party on Friday night, and she was always one to attend parties. At lunch that day, me, Devin, and Zeke meet up in the cafeteria. "Where's Peter?" I ask them. Zeke says that he hasn't seen him all day, and then Devin tells us that he wasn't in chemistry. Maybe he was too tired to come to school today or something. He wasn't acting like himself at the lake house after we did the Lucid Dream Challenge. I send him a text while I'm waiting in line to order my lunch. "Why didn't you come to school today?" I ask him. After school, I change into my uniform and head out to the field for baseball practice. "Hey, Carlos!" someone screams. My eyes scan the area, and when I spot Selena sitting in the bleachers with some of her friends, I smile from ear to ear. She waves at me and blows me a kiss, causing her girlfriends to squeal and me to blush in front of the whole team. During practice, one of the guys on the team, Roger, who plays shortstop, was acting really weird. He was totally out of it. Anytime the ball was hit in his direction, it was as if he wasn't even there. It would just drop to the ground and lay there until another player came to retrieve it. He roamed aimlessly around the field throughout practice. He was even hit in the head by the ball twice when we assumed he was going to catch it, but didn't. After practice, the coach calls Roger into his office. I wonder if he's going to get kicked off the team. That night at dinner, I tell my dad about what happened today at practice. He asks if Roger is on some type of drugs. I answer, "I'm not sure what's going on with him." Then he catches me off guard when he asks me, "What's this lucid dreaming challenge that's going on at your school?" I stuff a fork full of rice into my mouth to postpone my response. After I finish chewing and swallow it, I reply, "It's just something that some of the kids at my school have tried." He asks me, "Have you?" "No, but Peter has. He said that it didn't work though," I tell him. That night, I don't want to go to sleep. I'm afraid that I may dream again, since it seems to be happening every night now. I have no control. It just happens as soon as I close my eyes. And I'm nervous to find out where I will be taken. But I can't help it. Not long after my head hits the pillow, I'm out. I'm flying through the starlit night sky right where my dream left off last night. I don't see the dark entity, but then it suddenly appears before me, watching me, examining me. This is the first close-up I've gotten of it, besides its red eyes staring at me through the water that night at the lake house. But this time, it doesn't have red eyes. There is only black where its eyes should be. I can see the stars twinkling inside of the soulless pits. Skin so aged that it appears gray, mottled, and wrinkled, sags from what I think is its face. There are a few stringy strands of white hair dangling from its sunken skull. I don't know what I'm staring into the eyes of. Maybe it's not the same thing I saw before. Suddenly it reaches out with a cold, clammy hand and grips me by my throat. I grab at the hand, trying desperately to pry it from my neck. Then one of its dagger-like nails jabs me in the throat, and I can no longer breathe. Then, it just lets me go, and I fall into oblivion. I wake up gasping for air, and then my dad comes rushing into my room to check on me. "What's wrong, Carlos?" he asks while wiping the sleep from his tired, bloodshot eyes. Still holding my throat, I respond, "I don't know. I just started choking." He leaves and comes back with a glass of water, then sits it on my nightstand. He asks me one more time before he leaves if I'm okay, and I tell him yes. Then he goes back to bed. I glance at my alarm clock. It's 5 a.m. I have to get up in an hour for school anyway, so my plan is to just stay awake until then. It's 5:56 now. 5:57. 5:58. 5:59. I click the off switch on my alarm before it even has the chance to go off. I slouch my way out of bed and manage to get dressed. Then I head downstairs and grab a pack of Pop-Tarts from the cabinet. When Dad walks into the kitchen, he immediately asks me, "What's that on your neck? It looks like you were poked with something sharp." I dart to the bathroom mirror to check and see a bright red mark right in the middle of my Adam's apple, right where that thing jabbed me last night in my dream. I go back into the kitchen and tell Dad that I must have scratched myself last night when I woke up choking. That day at school, Selena approaches me after baseball practice and asks me if I've tried the Juice WRLD challenge yet. I tell her, yeah, I tried it, but my dream got kind of weird. She tells me, I love it. I do it all the time. Then she reveals, the one time I tried it with the girls, we were able to enter each other's dreams. It was so cool. Do you want to try it with me? I don't know for sure, but I imagine that my face is probably turning beet red right now. I think to myself, I hope I don't sound dumb when I ask her this. How does that work? Do you have to sleep together? She giggles. Well, yes, you sleep in the same bed, but all you have to do is hold hands while you're dreaming. Sure, I'll try it with you, I say, trying to stay cool. How about tonight? Can you sneak out and come to my house, she asks me. My heart sinks because there's no way I can sneak out. No, I can't, I tell her, devastated. No problem. What about if I come to your house? I debate for a minute before responding. Okay, but you have to leave before 6 in the morning. That's when my dad wakes me up. And if he sees you in my bed, I'll be grounded forever. She promises that she will. That night, my dad walks in on me straightening up my room. What's the occasion? He teases. I laugh it off, hoping I don't look guilty. He says goodnight and then heads to bed, and an hour later I get a text from Selena saying that she's on her way. I quietly slide out of bed and open my window, then spray some cologne around the room. 15 minutes later, she climbs through the open window and removes her sneakers and coat and places them gently on the floor. Then she slips into my bed next to me. Her skin feels cold up against mine. I cover her up with my blanket and grab her hand. I'm so nervous, I don't think I can get to sleep. But the next thing I know, the two of us are walking through the woods. She squeezes my hand tightly as we walk deeper and deeper. Everything looks so real, but I know I'm dreaming when the leaves begin to drop from the trees. They're falling so fast that it looks like a mixture of red, orange, and yellow snowfall. Then the wind starts to blow, causing the leaves to fall faster. The faster they fall, I can't see anything, just a blizzard of leaves blowing about. Then I'm all alone. Selena's hand has gotten separated from mine. I wave my hand in front of my face, trying to smack the leaves away so that I can find her, when suddenly my hands start to burn. I look down at them and notice they are covered in paper cuts. I must have gotten them from the leaves. The leaves start to slow down again, and I see a hand, so I grab for it, thinking that it must be Selena. But as soon as I grab a hold of it, I realize it's not hers. This hand is plump, calloused, and pale, and it's connected to a thick wrist. It hangs on to me, pulling me farther and farther away into the woods. I try to pull away, but I can't. The farther we go, the leaves begin to change from their beautiful fall array of colors to black. It continues to drag me deeper and deeper into the darkness. I scream Selena's name. I just know she must have been taken by this thing already. Suddenly, something that Peter said to me comes to mind. I remember him telling me that the dreamer is the one always in control of the dream. So I manage to grab a stick while I'm being dragged, and I roughly ram it into the top of the hand. Whatever had a hold of me lets go, and I tumble into an abyss of leaves. I wake up to my dad busting through my bedroom door yelling, "What the hell is going on in here?" My bed and floor is engulfed in leaves, and my body is covered in scratches. I look over and see that Selena is already gone. Then I stare up at my dad, who is still standing in the doorway waiting for an answer. "Where did all of these leaves come from?" he questions. I glance at my open window and suggest, "Maybe they blew in through there." Dad says, "Clean this mess up," then he slams my door. While I'm cleaning up the leaves, I find Selena's coat and sneakers on the floor where she left them. I toss them into my closet. Once I get to school, I'm surprised to see that Selena isn't there. I don't tell anyone that we were lucid dreaming together last night. I don't want them to think I did something to her. Peter finally returns to school a week later, but Selena never does. Her parents report her missing a day after we did the Juice WRLD challenge together. Peter looks different, and he's acting strange now. He appears to have a gray tint to his skin, and his lips look dry and crusty like he's dehydrated and hasn't drunk anything in days. He keeps his distance from us, and when we have class together, he tries his best to avoid me. He starts packing his lunch, which, who does that in high school? Zeke told me that one day at lunch he caught him eating raw meat. He said that he saw him pull out a raw burger from his bag, and then he just scarfed it down right there in front of him. I don't know what the hell is going on around here, but a lot of people have been acting weird at school. And another kid went missing today. Roger Wilson, the kid on my baseball team who'd been acting abnormal lately. He left for the bus stop this morning, but never made it to school. That night after dinner, Dad loads the dishes into the dishwasher, then asks Katerina and I if we'd like to go get ice cream for dessert. We race each other to the car, both of us trying to get to the front seat first. She pouts when I slam the door and lock it, leaving her standing on the sidewalk in the dust. As soon as we pull away, Dad gets a call and answers it through his Bluetooth in the car. It's Mr. Castanado, Peter's dad. Is Peter over there? He questions in a panicked tone. My dad tells him no. Does Carlos know where he could be? He never came home after school today, and he's not answering his phone. Dad glances over at me and I answer, "Hello, Mr. Castanado. I'm sorry, but I haven't seen him since earlier today at lunch." He replies, "Okay, let us know if you hear from him." Then he thanks me and says that he's going to give Zeke a call next. Dad starts flicking through the radio stations as I start to think about Peter. He's been acting so strange ever since we did that lucid dreaming challenge at the lake house. Now he's gone missing, just like Shannon, Selena, and Roger. Dad finally settles on a station, and when I hear the radio host talking about Roger's disappearance, I turn the volume up.
He was last seen this morning on Bellevue Lane heading towards Dallas Street. He was on his way to the bus stop, but other students who were already waiting there say he never showed up. Police believe that Roger and fellow student Selena and Shannon's disappearance are connected, but Shannon's parents believe that she ran away after displaying suicidal thoughts once she completed the Lucid Dreams challenge, aka Juice WRLD challenge. So I would like to know, what are your thoughts on this lucid dreaming, and what do you think is going on around here? Okay, we're taking calls. Caller, what's your name?
A girl named Natalie is the first to call. This is just so sad, and I can't believe this is happening here in our town. I just want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with the families of Shannon, Selena, and Roger. I hope they find them. The host's voice cuts back in.
Okay, thank you for calling, Natalie. Next caller, what's your name and what are your thoughts?
The caller says his name is Frankie. I saw on the news that the two kids who were missing go to the same school and they knew each other. Maybe they ran away to be together, the caller suggests.
Roger and Shannon, a forbidden love story. I like it. Too bad 3 kids are missing, not 2, so I doubt there's a love story there. But nice theory, Frankie.
They take another 2 calls, but out of all of the calls, this is the one that caught my attention.
Next caller, what's your name?
I hear what sounds like papers rustling in the background, and then a man replies in a frantic voice, "Carl." The host asks,
Conspiracy Carl? Is that you? Here we go again. I haven't heard from you in a while, so what's your theory on all this?
The man answers, "I've talked to some of the kids who weren't too far gone that have tried this lucid dreaming challenge that you're talking about. Kids are doing this without any knowledge of what lucid dreaming really is. All of them said that while they were dreaming, they've seen their body still sleeping at the start of their lucid dream, but that's actually called astral projection."
Can you explain what that means for the listeners?
The host asks. Carl continues, "Astral projection is when someone has an out-of-body experience where the soul leaves the body. My theory is that an evil entity is entering, taking over, and occupying their bodies. You have to warn these kids not to do this challenge." It's dangerous. The host butts in, cutting Carl off.
Okay, Carl, calm down there, buddy. Oh man, Carl always manages to stir things up on this show. I would like to thank all my callers, and we'll be back with more hits after this commercial break.
Dad turns the radio down and asks, "Weird stuff, huh?" I gulp back my tears that are on the edge of spilling and reply, "Yeah." Then I think to myself, but he's right. Something is getting closer and closer each time I dream. Every night it takes me farther and farther away from my body, and I don't know how to stop it. And I don't think I can stop it. The radio host's voice comes back on and he announces,
And we're back. But since we're on the subject of Juice World, to end the show tonight, I want to play the biggest hit out right now. By who? You guessed it.
I can feel myself getting tired. Subscribe for new original stories 3 times a week. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.